Hey everyone, Wandering Bard here, and if you followed my YouTube or Twitch at all, you might know that my favorite Pokemon game of all time is Pokemon Colosseum, a Gen 3 spin-off inspired by the Pokemon Forever movie. Months ago I set out on my quest to complete a Nuzlocke challenge of the game, and I eventually did, in 17 attempts. Now, that number is a bit misleading since most of those attempts were intentional resets due to bad natures or IVs on my starter Pokemon. However, I still can't help but feel embarrassed by the fact that I made a big deal out of this being my favorite Pokemon game, yet it took me so long to Nuzlocke it, and even my successful attempt was a mess at the end. Only the fact that my rules allowed me to Master Ball Nazgul's Metagross allowed me to win that attempt. So I wanted redemption. I wanted to complete the Colosseum Nuzlocke challenge, but with even harder rules than before. Would that be possible? Well, my Twitch chat showed me how to do it. You see, when I set the rules for my initial run, I allowed myself access to the full Shadow Pokemon list, minus legendary and post-game encounters. I felt that the Shadow Pokemon list would already constrain me to the typical number of encounters for a Nuzlocke in most games, and there's so few areas on this map that limiting encounters per area seemed obscenely difficult. However, Twitch chat reminded me that there's actually more locations in this game than I realized. For example, in Phenac City there are 2 total encounters. A guaranteed Makuhita in the mayor's house, and then your pick of one of the evolved Johto starter Pokemon outside the house. If you go to Makuhita's summary, however, its location met is marked as mayor's house, not Phenac City. So, by the typical Nuzlocke rules of 1 encounter per area, I would be allowed both of those Pokemon. Other areas are split this way as well. Rilgum Tower is split into the Tower Dome and the Tower proper, the Under is split into the Under and the Under Subway, and Pyrite Town has 4 unique areas: Pyrite Town, Pyrite Building, Pyrite Cave, and Mirror Hideout. So, by using typical Nuzlocke rules, you would be allowed a total of 15 Pokemon, including your 2 starters and a gift plusle from Duking. Now, some of these areas only have 1 possible encounter, but for other locations I'll have to randomly generate which Shadow Pokemon I'm allowed to catch, so this challenge has a fair bit of repeatability. And with my previous restrictions of no items and no overleveling still in place, I now had a harder challenge awaiting me as well. So grab a snack, sit down, and get comfortable as I tell you the story of how I completed the harder core Colosseum Nuzlocke on my very first try. My attempt began as mine usually do, by immediately checking natures and IVs on my starter Pokemon. My Umbreon has a rash nature, plus special attack, minus special defense. This is actually okay, since Umbreon has amazing special defense already, so the nature won't hurt things much, and since dark moves are special in Gen 3, the plus special attack is nice. But my Espeon has a modest nature, plus special attack, minus attack. This is literally the best possible nature for an Espeon to have, since they are primarily special attackers. This Espeon also has neutral to good IVs in all of its stats, including a near perfect special attack IV. This has got to be the best Espeon I have ever had in any playthrough. My hopes for this run immediately skyrocket, but so do my nerves. These 2 starters could carry me through so much of the game if I used them properly, but now the pressure is on for me to protect them, and not put them at risk to an unfortunate critical hit. We go through the early game as usual, catching the guaranteed Makuhita in the mayor's house, and then we arrive at our Phenac City encounter, one of the evolved Johto starters. Some rule sets might allow you to pick which one you go for, since these are technically starter Pokemon. However, I personally felt that the run's true starters were already in my party, so I decided to randomly generate this, and to have some fun while doing it. So what I'm going to be doing is I've prepared an Excel sheet with every single Pokemon in it, every single possible encounter. I am going to be ranking every time that there's an area where I have more than 1 possible encounter, I am going to rank them based on how much do I want them to be my encounter, and that'll be how I get the numbers for the random number generator. So just remember, we always want to roll low. I ranked the Phenac encounter something like this. Viewers of my Colosseum encounter tier list video will know that I have since changed my opinion and would now rank Croconaw above Quilava here, but Bayleaf is still my number 1 pick by far. I do plan to make a video detailing why that's the case, so if you want to see that when it comes out, please consider subscribing to the channel. I did end up rolling Bayleaf as my encounter, so I happily added it to the team. Up next is Pyrite Town, which is definitely the most interesting area to roll an encounter in. There are 7 possible encounters here, ranging from the amazing to the iconically terrible. I end up rolling my 4th pick, the Noctowl. Noctowl is actually really good for this part of the game, since it makes the first battle against Mirror B a lot easier. Or at least, it would have done had I not immediately lost my Noctowl to an unfortunate critical hit while grinding against Rider Vant and his Mischievous. Whoops. Sorry about that, buddy. I would have loved to have you around later. Nevertheless, our party of 4 easily wins through the Pyrite Colosseum and makes it to the Pyrite Building, where another encounter awaits us. This place is the main reason why I ranked Crocodile lowest among the Johto starters, since you're almost guaranteed a water type here, many of which are better as water type Pokemon than Crocodile. And I end up rolling my number 1 pick, a Mantine which awaits us at the top of the building. This Mantine is caught at the end of a back-to-back challenge from Wreath and Firma, which is usually difficult for me even with a full party. But things go pretty well. Since my starters in this attempt have special attack buffing natures and don't have a speed nerf, they're able to outspeed and one-shot all of Wreath's Pokemon. We're also able to use the same snatch strategy as in my previous run to take out Firma's lead Aipom and deal with her Ferret while Bayleaf wears down the Mantine with Body Slam. One lucky Paralysis and a Great Ball later, I have an A-tier water type on my team. Awesome! The grunt at the cave entrance is easy to deal with now that we're not trying to catch its quillfish, so before too long it's time to roll an encounter in the Pyrite Cave. Both Swablu and Manatite are pretty phenomenal options, but I end up rolling Dunsparce, who is rather hit and miss. A Serene Grace Dunsparce is pretty okay, but Run Away is useless, especially in this game since you can't run from trainer battles. But my Dunsparce does end up having Serene Grace, so my incredible streak of luck continues. Dunsparce joins the team, and then it's time to fight Mirror B. This fight could have gone better. I've never had to do this without a powerful flying type move at my disposal, and I didn't go into this with much of a plan. Trying to narrate this entire fight blow by blow would be very tedious, so I mainly want to highlight this moment right here. My Mantine and Bayleaf were deliberately put in hyper mode before the battle, so they would have higher crit rates with Shadow Rush. I went for a killing shot on the level 28 Ludicolo, and called Bayleaf out of hyper mode in anticipation of Sudowoodo. The smarter play, though, would have been to set things up to where I could kill both Ludicolo simultaneously, since my team is not well equipped to take on a level 35 Sudowoodo while it has a buddy beside it. So, by the time I do take down the final Ludicolo, my team is in even worse shape, and my attempts to sacrifice weaker Pokemon for tempo fail since this Sudowoodo is going for seemingly random moves against random targets. I end up being forced to kill it before it wipes out crucial members of my team. This isn't a huge loss since Sudowoodo isn't that great in this game, but this could mean that my Rilgum Tower Dome encounter ends up being this underlevel Sudowoodo instead of an actually good Pokemon like, say, Heracross. Duking gives us Plusle, and my thankfully still living team and I make our way to Agate Village, where we can finally purify our Pokemon. Before that, we go to the Name Raider and nickname Espeon and Umbreon Rem and Machina. Viewers of my other recent tier lists can guess the theme here, and no, there's almost no chance of keeping all the names gender accurate with this one. We catch Scrub's Hitmontop, which is the only encounter in Agate Village, and then purify and nickname the rest of our team. Mantine is Trey, Dunsparce is Cater, Hariyama is 9, and Meganium is Jack. It pains me to name one of my favorite Pokemon after one of my least favorite Type 0 characters, but they share the same relentless optimism. I can't nickname Plusle since it's registered to Duking still, but we'll give him the honorary nickname Mog. He's our team mascot. The next major battle is against Dakim in Mount Battle, but this fight is almost not worth mentioning, since I've previously proven that this fight gets completely cheesed by Jack and Trey. As an educational point for why these two Pokemon work so well, most of Dakim's Pokemon are either 4 times weak to water or to grass type attacks, so they go down in one shot. His Metang is not weak to either type, but look at its moveset. It has Earthquake, Metal Claw, and Psychic as attacking moves, none of which do much to the water-flying Spadef tank that is Trey the Mantine. So all this Metang can do is use Psychic on Jack, who is also very bulky and can just heal the damage by using Giga Drain, which you get as a TM in the Phenac Colosseum, against Dakim's other Pokemon. This also frees Trey up to set up Rain Dance, so Dakim's Entei isn't too threatening either. I do have to switch Jack when it comes out, since even in Rain a stabbed, super effective Fire Blast is scary, but Machina also has amazing special defense and can tank the hit, so Entei goes down pretty easily after that. Beating Deku opens up the game's resources, including the Under and its TM shop, which has TMs for hidden power. At this point, I went to figure out what my Pokemon's hidden power types were, but I'll be honest and say that I took a long hiatus from the run after doing this, and so forgot what most of them were, except that most of them weren't great. The only ones that mattered were 8 the Hitmontop, who has hidden power fighting, and Rem, whose hidden power type ended up being Bug. Bug is literally one of the best possible types to get here, since it gives Rem a super effective move to use against Dark-type Pokemon, who are immune to Psychic moves, as well against other Psychic Pokemon. The Espeon in my previous run also had hidden power Bug, but with a low base power, so a return would do more damage regardless of type matchups. In this case, however, Rem's hidden power was strong enough that a super effective hidden power Bug does do more damage than return, which just solidifies this as the most broken Espeon I have ever received in my life. We also get another encounter in the Under, a guaranteed Ledian who we never use in any important battles. I name it Deuce. Then, we need to train up to fight Venus. Here, I decide to build a strategy around Serene Grace Dunsparce, who for some reason can learn Fire Blast. Venus usually leads with Delcatty and Steelix, so I would lead with Machina and Cater. Machina can use Taunt to stop attacks from Delcatty, and Fire Blast is super effective on Steelix. At the time, I thought that Fire Blast had a 30% chance of burning its target, which would be doubled to 60% with Cater's Serene Grace ability. So even though Fire Blast wouldn't one-shot Steelix, it would most likely induce a burn, which lowers its attack power. Turns out the chances are only 10%, which are much worse. So this wasn't a great strategy, but to be honest, my team is pretty stacked and Dunsparce isn't that great anyway, so it wouldn't have been too bad to sacrifice it here. We roll into the Venus fight with Machina and Cater up front, and Venus leads with Delcatty and Bannet. I have never, in all of my time playing this game, seen her not lead with Steelix in this first battle. A buddy of mine named Abox, who also Nuzlocks this game, happened to be in chat at the time, and he had also never seen her not lead Steelix. You learn something every day. Regardless, this is fine since Umbreon can easily kill Bannet with a couple of bites. On turn 1 I go for a bite, and Delcatty flips the script by not going for Attract and instead hitting Cater with a double edge. Bannet does attract Cater though, which pays off instantly as Cater is immobilized by Love. But on the next turn, I finish off Bannet with a bite, and have Cater target Bannet's slot with Fire Blast, since Venus will send in either Vileplume or Steelix here, both of whom are weak to fire. She opts for Vileplume, who eats a Fire Blast on the switch. It doesn't kill, cause it's a Dunsparce, but we still do big damage. Unfortunately, Cater is in bad shape at this point thanks to all the double edges, so I switch her for Jack as I target Delcatty with a bite. The bite does flinch Delcatty, which is great, and Vileplume's Giga Drain doesn't do much damage on the switch. Then a Body Slam leaves Vileplume in the red and paralyzes it as a bite finishes off the prissy cat. Out comes the Steelix. We use Giga Drain, Bite, and Taunt to wear down Steelix safely, but Vileplume breaks through the paralysis to land a Sun Spore, which paralyzes Jack. Thankfully, we don't get fully paralyzed and Steelix just refuses to use Earthquake, so in just a few turns we bring down Venus to her last Pokemon, the Suicune, who goes down not long after. That's Venus defeated. We have to chase Venus into the subway, where there are 4 possible encounters. Gligar or Piloswine would be great here, since up next is the Shadow Pokemon Lab, which is full of researchers who love to use Electric-type Pokemon. Unfortunately, I missed the coin toss on getting a Ground-type Pokemon, and end up getting Stantler, who we do purify but never actually use. The lab just got a lot harder. I took a step back and decided that I really needed to get some of my benched Pokemon into shape if I wanted to survive the lab. So I went to Mount Battle to do a ton of grinding. Abox has done a ton of this and he figured out that areas 4 and 5 of Mount Battle give the most Poke Coupons per experience gain, so I'm also able to gain a ton of Poke Coupons which can be spent on rare and useful items for my Pokemon. More on that later. My basic strategy for getting through the lab is to use Jack and 8, who has been brought off the bench. 8 has good special defense to tank electric type moves, and his Intimidate ability will lessen the effect of enemy electrodes choosing to blow up. I can also use Jack to set up Sunlight, which reduces the accuracy of Thunder to 50% and also gives Jack 1 turn Solar Beam. When I reach the lab, I realize this strategy is perfected by the fact that 8 knows Detect, which is basically a fighting type version of Protect. So, by detecting turn 1 as I set up the Sun, I can minimize the chances of being killed by Thunder. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First I have to roll my encounter. At this point in the game, there's not many encounters left, and only a couple of the 6 possible lab Pokemon are actually worth adding to the team. I arranged them like this, roll my encounter, and equals ran between 1, 6... What?! No stinking way! No stinking way did I get my #1 pick again! Oh, that could save the run. That could make things so much stinking better. Oh. I am in utter disbelief. Of all the encounters remaining in this game, a Flygon is easily the best one besides the guaranteed Skarmory and Realgam Tower. This is once again an amazing turn of luck. But first, I have to actually reach the Vibrava trainer in one piece, and she appears pretty late in the area. Thankfully, my lab strategy goes beautifully, as the combination of 8 and Jack easily takes care of the researchers, and I'm able to optimize my front 2 to deal with every single Cipher Peon. There was one researcher whose Electrode exploded turn 1, but 8 dodged that with Detect, and it didn't crit Jack, so we take it just fine with Intimidate. There was another researcher fight later on where I risked 8 to a critical hit Thunder, but we don't get punished, and it wouldn't have mattered at that point. Part of why I chose to use 8 here was because I felt that we could afford to lose him if it came down to it. Somewhere within all of this, I realized I don't have nearly enough Ultra Ball, so I went and bought a bunch, but this ended up being unnecessary as we catch Vibrava first try. I immediately hightail it out of the lab, use the Time Flute to purify Vibrava instantly, and then feed him some rare candies to evolve him into a Flygon. Welcome to the team, Ace. Now it's time to battle Ein. I don't have a water-absorbed Quagsire to cheese this fight, so I make a plan that involves having Mog the Plusle use Encore to lock either Huntail or Lantern into using Rain Dance. So I lead with Rem and Plusle, and Ein leads Lantern and Golbat, who immediately dies to a Psychic from Rem. Admittedly, I should have brought some Perfs Berries into this fight and delayed killing Golbat, since now Huntail comes out and has Swift Swim to boost its speed in the rain. I have Mog use Agility, and Lantern sets up the rain. It looks like Rem will most likely still outspeed Huntail even with its Swift Swim ability, so I have Mog lock down Lantern into using Rain Dance as Hope sets up Light Screen. Huntail ends up going for Confuse Ray instead of Hydro Pump, so next turn I have to swap Mog out for Trey. Then Ein just switches out Lantern for his Altaria, which I didn't think about him doing. The AI in most Pokemon games doesn't switch even when Encore locked, and I forgot that the Colosseum AI is smart enough to do that. Thankfully, my lineup for this fight is pretty stacked, so we're not in too much danger. Rem also just one-shots the Huntail next turn with Psychic, so Lantern comes back in to threaten Trey with a Thunder. Unfortunately, I can't switch in my usual Electric-type counters here, since this Altaria knows Ice Beam, and it's unclear right now what the Altaria will do. So I switch in Machina and have Rem target the Altaria with a Psychic, which does great damage. It responds by flying up high as Lantern goes for Confuse Ray on Machina. On the next turn, I kind of forgot that Machina was confused, so I have my Pokemon double up on Lantern, which leaves it with a Sliver as the rain ends. Then I forget about Confusion again and try to have my Pokemon divide and conquer Eins. So Altaria goes down, but Machina hits itself in Confusion, and Lantern lives to set up the rain again. But with Altaria gone and Lantern on death's door, it is perfectly safe to switch Machina for Ace, who is immune to Thunder. Raikou ends up going for Rem with the Thunder, but we were safe even to a crit, and we're easily able to take care of the Raikou with Jack and Ace. That's I'm defeated. We get the TM for Earthquake, which I immediately give to Ace, and we also buy Ace a TM Flamethrower from Mount Rattle in anticipation of the Admin Gauntlet in the Realgam Tower Domes. As in my previous run, I treat this like an Elite 4 run and set a level cap of 50 for the entire gauntlet, with the caveat that I have to battle all 4 of the admins in a row. Because there are possible encounters before, during, and after the admin gauntlet, I also have to roll my next encounter here. At this point, though, my planned Elite 4 team is pretty much set in stone once I get my guaranteed Skarmory, so unless something happens to one of my teammates, the only encounter that could make a difference would be Heracross. But there's no way I would get my #1 encounter pick a 4th time. You're kidding me. Don't get me wrong, this is awesome, but you're kidding me. Well, we can't catch the Heracross until after the admin gauntlet, so we get the team in shape and take them on. And, well, it could have gone better. Wait, that Loudred has Earthquake? Why didn't I just check? Why didn't I just look up its moves? Alright. Yeah, I completely forgot this thing has Earthquake. The rest of that fight went fine, but now we have a problem. Because I rolled that this is essentially an Elite Four run, I can't switch Mog for another Pokemon here. I have to complete the remaining 3 battles with only 5 Pokemon. And the rematch with Deku is coming up, and it's much scarier than the first time around. He has a Fortress with Explosion, which is only weak to fire, much better Earthquake synergy thanks to Levitate Pokemon, and a Whiscash, who is only weak to Grass moves and also knows Ice Beam. This is not going to be easy. I lead with Ace and Jack since they give me the most outs against Dakim's team, and he leads Flygon and Fortress. This Flygon doesn't have a Dragon-type move to hit Ace with, but it does have Sunny Day and Flamethrower. So I have Jack go for Protect and hope that Flygon will be a deer and set up Sunlight for us. Fortress also protects turn 1, so Ace's Flamethrower just bounces off as Flygon does indeed set up Sunlight. Then I have a realization. The moment I kill Fortress, Whiscash will come in to threaten Ace with Ice Beam. Since Jack is slower than Ace, I can destroy Whiscash with 1-turn Solar Beam as it comes in. But this means opening up to a sun-boosted Flamethrower from Flygon. I do the calcs and Jack is safe unless it crits, and switching would put me way behind tempo, so I decide to take the risk. The risk does pay off as Flygon doesn't crit, and we take out the Fortress and the Whiscash. This brings out Claydol. We have Jack protect again as Ace does massive damage to Flygon with a Dragon Breath. So, on the next turn, we can safely use Synthesis to get Jack to full HP as Ace takes down the Flygon. This brings Entei out, and unfortunately Ace isn't in great shape after tanking a couple of Psychics from Claydol. There's only 1 turn of Sun left, so if I want to kill Claydol with Solar Beam, it would have to be now. But this opens me up to 1 more potential crit from Entei's Fire Blast. I decide once again to chance it, so we have Ace use Protect as Jack brings down the Claydol. Then Entei lands a Fire Blast, and... no crit. That's a relief. I later realized that I completely forgot to account for Sunlight when I did that calculation on Entei. For what it's worth, I did the maths in my head to account for Sun when calculating the damage from Flygon, and then I forgot I hadn't turned it on in the calculator when doing it for Entei. But we were still safe unless it crit, so no harm done. The Venus fight was incredibly easy, so we'll skip it here. Against Ein, I lead with Trey and Jack, and he sends in Rhydon and Crobat. I switch Trey for Rem to deal with Crobat, and Rhydon makes things easier by using Protect on turn 1. Unfortunately, Crobat does land a Toxic on Jack as he sets up the Sunlight. Next turn though, we one-shot both of Ein's Pokemon with Psychic and Solar Beam, so Ein brings in Starmie and Pelipper. Starmie is incredibly scary, but most of its moveset gets completely shafted by harsh sunlight. So I anticipate Starmie going for Rain Dance here, and decide to counter it by having Jack go for Sunny Day, while Rem wears down the Starmie with Hidden Power Bug. This does work, except Pelipper also goes for Rain Dance here, so my Sun play is negated, and the toxic damage is starting to stack up on Jack here. I anticipate that Starmie might try to kill Jack with Psychic, so I have him use Protect. This, however, was a terrible decision, since Starmie ends up going for a rain-boosted Hydro Pump into Rem, which thankfully misses. So one last hidden power kills the Starmie, and the rest of my team can deal with Ein's remaining Pokemon. That was a terrifying admin gauntlet, but we pulled through with only 1 loss. Losing Mog right before the Tower Colosseum really stinks, but it does free up a spot on my team for the Heracross, who I named 7. We train up 7, and then beat Gonzap pretty easily now that I remember that Reversal exists. His Skarmory is also the only encounter in Rilgum Tower and the final encounter of the run, so we use the Master Ball on it. We name the newcomer Seiss, and he replaces Trey on my final team. And after a long session of level grinding and berry farming, I was ready for the Tower Colosseum. Here's my final team. Rem for speed and incredible psychic power, Machina as a reliable counter for Nasker's team and for potential Toxic Stall, Ace as a powerful offensive force and as a Caesar counter, Seiss as a defensive pivot and for synergy using Metal Sound, 7 as my primary wall rain and slaking counter, and Jack as a backup wall rain counter and a cleanup against Evice if needed. I lead with Rem and Machina for the final run, and we're able to deal with the initial trainer gauntlet pretty easily. My plan for Nasker is built around the fact that he usually leads with Gardevoir and Xatu. With some pivoting and Protect stalling, I can set up Ace and 7 to sweep through his entire team. I especially need them out before Walrein comes in. But he leads with Walrein and Gardevoir, which throws that whole plan out the window. I have Rem use Protect to dodge an attack from Gardevoir as Machina hits it with a Bite. Bite is thankfully a 2-shot, so next turn Rem does a huge hit to Walrein with Psychic as Machina kills the Gardevoir. But Walrein uses Attract on Rem, and now Blaziken is out, so I can't rely on these two anymore. I switch Rem out for Scythe in anticipation of an Ice Beam, and I switch Machina for 7 to take a Brick Break. Blaziken ends up going for Swagger here, which sharply raises 7's attack but also causes confusion. However, a held Person Berry cures the confusion, and 7 can tank a non-critical hit Blaze Kick. Scythe can't though, so I have him use Protect as 7 finishes off the Walrein. Nazcur used an X special on Blaziken that turn, so now its Blaze Kicks are even more powerful, and I don't know anymore who Nazcur will target. I can switch Scythe out for Ace, but I don't have another great switch available, so I have 7 use Endure. Nazcur just ends up going for Confuse Ray on 7, as Ace takes the Blaze Kick pretty well. Ace was also holding a Lumberry, so he was safe from either a burn or confusion from Swagger or Confuse Ray. I then switch 7 out for Scythe since he's immune to Earthquake, which one-shots the Blaziken. Now Dusclops is out. I have Ace use Protect to dodge a potential Confuse Ray, as Scythe hits Xatu with a Drill Peck. Then I switch in Machina as Scythe hits Xatu with Metal Sound. I think I was trying to set things up to where I could reliably kill both Xatu and Dusclops at once. I am not really sure what I was thinking with that one. Machina gets confused on the switch, but he's safe from these two and he breaks through the confusion to kill Xatu with a Bite. Metagross comes in, but Machina is still pretty safe here, so a couple of bites take out Dusclops and then we can easily deal with the Metagross. That's a deathless win against Nazcur. Only one more battle left and I am feeling really great. Evice comes out and leads with Slaking and Slowking. This can be a terrifying pair if you're not prepared for it, since Slowking has Skill Swap and will use it to remove Slaking's Truant ability. However, I have kept Taunt as part of Machina's moveset specifically for this possibility. All I have to do is have Rem use Protect on turns when Slaking can attack, then do massive damage on turns when it loafs. This does open up Rem to an X attack boosted Shadow Ball, but Slowking has terrible attack, so I knew we were safe unless it crit, which it didn't. On turn 3, Slowking does use Skill Swap as Taunt expires, but we still outspeed the Slaking, and Slowking will loaf on turn 4. So I decide to have Machina use Toxic on whatever comes in as Rem finishes off the Slaking, completely forgetting that Evice will just send in Caesar, who is immune to Toxic. Evice's Pokemon will both see a kill on Rem here, but not Machina, so I have Rem use Protect as I switch Machina for Ace. Then, a Hidden Power Bug finishes off Slowking, and a Flamethrower from Ace one-shots the Caesar. Out come Machamp and Salamence. Rem is still baiting a kill, so I use Protect again as Ace uses Dragon Breath on Salamence. Unfortunately, Dragon Breath is not a 2-shot, and as much as I would love to be cheeky and win the Evice fight deathless, the objectively smart play is to have Rem kill Machamp with Psychic and then sacrifice him for a clean switch into something like Heracross, who can easily take down the Tyranitar that comes in after. So, I have my beautiful starter Pokemon make the ultimate sacrifice. A crit or a paralysis? Wait, we'll get fully paralyzed? You know what? I'll take that. Next turn, we do one more Protect stall as Flygon goes for Earthquake, which is also not a 2-shot on Tyranitar. The Sandstorm chip finishes off Salamence though, which brings Ace up to level 57. He gets plus 6 attack, so as I switch out Rem for Scythe, another Earthquake is enough to finish off Tyranitar, winning me the Deathless finale and the entire run. That was the best I have ever felt in the finale of any challenge ever. There were some lucky moments throughout the run, and some plays that definitely could have been improved still. But I think I played a lot better overall, and especially in the endgame, and I definitely feel this redeems my first run. To those of you who watched this far into the video, thank you so much for the support, and I hope that you'll consider liking this video and subbing to the channel. I'm planning to take a break from Nuzlocke on here for a while and experiment more with team building, but let me know if there are any types of challenges you'd like to see me do on here, and follow my Twitch as well if you want to see me do them live. I also now have a Twitter, Wandering Bard Games on Twitter, so follow me on there if you want updates whenever I'm live. Thank you so much again for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.